Starting in tabletop position, slide the left toes back, keep the hips nice and square, low belly in, tailbone tucked, and then lift your heel towards the sky. We're gonna pull it up in extension, and then keep those toes tucked, replace them back down. Now we're in a plank position, and we're gonna pull that right quad into the belly on our push up, really expanding in the shoulder blades. Lower, drop that knee below the hip, lift the left heel towards the sky, then lower the left toes and lift the left or right quad into the belly, really puffing up the upper back on that lift. Now we can quicken the pace a little bit now that we know where we're going. So we lift the left heel, lift the right quad, lift the left heel, same thing, opposite side. So slide those right toes back and then lift that heel towards the sky, keeping the belly secure, the hip points nice and square, and then tuck those toes under, place them back on the ground, and then draw the left quad into the belly, top of the push-up really strong. Lower that knee back below the hip, draw that right heel up towards the ceiling, replace the balls of the feet, and then draw the quad into the belly. So just keeping that integrity in the center line and the length in the front body and back body, gazes forward, pulse that heel up towards the sky, and then really pull that quad in to the belly, expanding in the shoulder region at the top of the push-up. Exercise 2, round 1. Here we go. I think this is a pretty fun one today. Starting in a supported side plank, lift the hips up to pick up this left knee and then thread it through. We're in a fallen triangle now. Bring the arm up to the sky. We're gonna lower the hips with the arm. And then as we lift the arm up and overhead, growing long through the side body, we lift the hips high to the sky. Lower, but don't let them sink all the way down to the mat, and then lift and see how high you can get them at the top. Really making a nice little arc in that rainbow at the top. Lower with control, nice and slow, and lift. And keep that left shoulder blade and left shoulder region really stabilizing and lifting versus sinking and resting and pushing to the fingertips. And that's gonna help you with that stabilization at the wrist as well. Same thing, opposite side, set it up in that side plank, supported, and then we lift up the hips to lift the right knee and thread it through, fallen triangle, arm to the sky, slow lower those hips towards the mat, and then pulse back up, growing long in the side body, arm overhead, draw that rainbow back and forth across the sky as we lift and we lower, keeping integrity in these joints that are supporting the movement. Pushing into the fingertips, sort of powering up. Imagine the shoulder blade as a shield that's really supporting us, and using the muscles that surround the joints versus just resting into the joints. These stabilizing muscles are kind of everything because our bones will depreciate as we age, but if we can keep all the muscles around them very much active, setting up for reverse tabletop. We're gonna lift the hips up towards the sky, keep that belly in. Fingertips are facing towards your body for the setup. And then as we slow lower, we're gonna pop into the heels and then pull the hips back through and up. Blocks under your hands are gonna help you if you can't quite keep the butt elevated off the ground. So pull up into that reverse tabletop, pop onto the heels, and see if you can't spread those shoulder blades and have a little bit of elevation there, like we're kind of lifting up on our lifted staff position And again, if it's kind of too much or doesn't feel like there's enough space to pull the hips back in through. Next up, bridge to bow. So we lift our hips back up to the sky, much like our reverse tabletop. Then we lower, and then as soon as that low back is pressed into the ground, we start to pick the head and the chest up and lift into bow. You've got a bent leg option. If you need a little more support than that, you can push into your arms to come up. And then if you want a little in addition to that, then you can reach those toes towards the sky and tap hands to feet. So important to hit that undulation on the way down so that we're really rounding into the low spine to lift up. And keeping that belly suctioning in as we lift our hips to the sky and bridge. Keep the tabletop position, slide the right leg back, lift that heel towards the sky, then replace the toes of the balls of the feet, and then lift the right quad into the belly, really puffing up at the top. Replace the knee below the hips, and then lift the back heel. Drop it, lift the quad, drop it. Nice and solid and secure. It's not just a drop. It's resisting the lifting and lowering. So we're already on round 2, and this is a pretty fun set of exercises today, I think, but that does not make it easy. But sometimes fun plus challenging is the best. So round 2, we already know the workouts that we're doing, the exercises that we're doing, and now we're opposite side, set up that nice, straight, strong tabletop, and then slide the right foot back, lift the right heel towards the sky, then plant that foot, balls of the feet, and then lift the quad into the belly in our plank position. Drop the knee below the hip, lift the opposite heel, lift the opposite quad, and we just keep rotating back and forth between these two movements. And we're on round 2, so we've been here before, and this is also one where we do each side as its own exercise. So we've been here a couple times. Now we can really start to smooth it out and add the integrity to the performance. Integrity, tension, structure. We're really piecing it all together. We took down the notes. Now we're reading. Starting in a supported side plank, we lift the hips to lift that bottom knee and thread it through, fallen triangle. Now we lower the hand and the hips, and then we lift the hips, and the arm goes up and overhead for that nice long side body stretch. Lifting and lowering, and really trying to lift high enough to have a nice rainbow arc at the top, lowering against that, adding resistance to that lower so it's not just a drop, but it's nice and controlled and strong. You're right in the middle now already, in the middle of our second round of exercises for the day. Halfway there and cruising along. Starting in supported side plank, we lift the hips to lift that bottom knee and thread it through, fallen triangle, lower the hips with the arm. And then as we draw that rainbow across the sky, we lift the hips nice and high. Lower and lift, resisting gravity, swimming through space. We're really starting to piece it together now. Instead of individual movements, we're starting to focus more and more on the transition between the postures and the integrity within it. So really trying to tap into all of the micro feelings we're experiencing throughout each segment of the movement. Reverse tabletop. We lift those hips to the sky, fingertips are facing towards our body, then we pop into those heels as we move through Malasa, shifting the hips back and through the arms and up. Remember, blocks under the hand can be helpful here if space is becoming challenging, and that additional sort of lift of the hips towards the sky in this lifted staff just gives us a little additional workout, targeting a few more areas of the body, and might as well. We're over halfway done. We only have one more round after this, and you've got one more exercise in the second round left after this. So it's really time to get as much as you can out of it. Bridge to boat round 2, lift the hips towards the sky, keep the belly nice and secure, and then we connect the low spine to the ground, and then we crunch up and lift into our boat. So this is interesting, right? Because this one is so similar to what we just did. Same, but opposite. So we have different areas to really focus on. And our hands and our wrists aren't taking the heavy load anymore, but it's really important to make sure that those movements at the low spine and how we lift our chest and our head to initiate this transition into boat is done correctly. So that's kind of the integrity of the situation here and the micro awareness that we need to apply. Tabletop position, puff up before you slide that left foot back, heel to sky, keep the integrity in the structure, drop those toes, and then lift quad to belly, really puff up at the top of the push-up, and repeat. So we have been here 2 times before. Now we can really get as much out of this without so much thinking, kind of more flowing. This is our liquid round, and our liquid is more like honey and molasses. Less just dropping in to each posture and more resisting in and out of each posture. In our final round, guys, we are almost there for the day, and you're gonna feel this one, but my side 2, final round. Let's Terminator up. That's our powering up into that tabletop position. We slide the right foot back. Keep the hip points square as we lift the right heel to the sky. Then pull the left quad into the belly. Keep your gaze forward. And hopefully this is ingrained by now so you can move with grace in and out of the postures. Our final round. So this is the last one you'll be doing of these. On either side, make it the best yet. Really pull that quad tight into the belly and spread those shoulder blades across the back and top. Keep the hips nice and square and the belly engaged as you lift that heel towards the sky. Side plank, lift the hips and thread that bottom leg through. Then we lower the hips down and then lift them, powering up. Again, that sort of Terminator engagement, all those muscles around the joint coming into action to lift the body up into the sky in this tension system of tissues throughout our body, allowing us to keep the integrity in the structures. Use your breath with that slow lower and inhale to make that long side body and that rainbow across the sky. These are not easy, but you are almost done. Our final fallen triangle hip lowers for the day. We lower and we lift, and see just how much you can expand at the top. See if you can feel it really as kind of this floating up towards the sky. And then resisting gravity on the way down, so we're not just dropping into it. The finish line is in sight. Let's finish this strong. All right, reverse tabletop. Draw that low belly in as you lift the hips towards the sky. Really inflate at the top here too. That Terminator-ing up we've been talking about. And then pull through, and same thing on the backside. That extra little lift at the end. Pull up. And then really blend those lifts together. So one kind of moves into the next. Inflate. But when you release, it's still resisting gravity. Inflate at the bottom. Here we go, last one. We only have one exercise after this. It's been a good one today. You're gonna feel really strong and powerful. Final one, lift the hips towards the sky, keep the neck long, the gaze up towards the ceiling. We undulate down, connecting the low spine. First, lifting the chest, the head, and then rising into our boat. And I like this one, and I like the one that came before this, and I like the two of them together. So that reverse tabletop into the lifted, elevated staff, and then bridge into boat, and kind of exploring the differences and the similarities between those exercises is very interesting to me. And just these ones where we really have to focus on that transitional element. So making sure that our spine connects the way we want it, that we lift the chest and the head and the shoulder blades in the right order. It keeps it interesting.